Workplace Initiative in New Hampshire, online learning platform for recovery-friendly workplaces. Today, we're going to be discussing identifying and supporting employees that are living with substance use concerns. In today's session, we'll be revisiting the RFW initiative and why you signed up in the first place and what it means for the Granite State and employees across. We'll be discussing person-centered approaches to identifying potential employee substance use concerns and supporting employees with substance use concerns with a recovery-informed approach. As a refresher, the Recovery Friendly Workplace Initiative is led by Governor Chris Sununu. It was launched in March of 2018 and has several different goals and objectives across the state, including promoting health, safety, and wellness for New Hampshire workplaces and employees, empowering workplaces to provide support for employees in recovery and those impacted by substance use disorders, challenging stigma, and encouraging employee retention and productivity. While all of these goals are important, today's session will focus on two of those, which are empowering workplaces and encouraging employees. As you're already signed up, this should be a reminder, but you employ, as a recovery-friendly workplace, those with substance use disorders just like every other business within the state. In New Hampshire, there's an estimated over 100,000 individuals that are living in recovery, and another 10% of the population that's dealing with an active substance use disorder at any given time. Work is where we reach people just like we can in the communities. It's where people spend a majority of their time and where we have opportunity to intervene and support them regularly. And also, as a business, one of the huge cross drivers and where we can derive some of the most or largest return on investment is within talent retention, our staff retention by supporting them and developing them into great employees. Additional benefits of addressing substance use disorders include increasing productivity, employee health, morale, communication, employee satisfaction, community connection, and customer loyalty, as well as decreasing or reducing absenteeism, employee turnover, and impact on families. As we begin to move into the main topic for discussion today, identifying and supporting employees that are living with substance use concerns, it's important for that recap to remember why we do this work other than to feel good, is that it has a direct benefit and is part of becoming a recovery-friendly workplace writ large. From a previous course, we know that there is a huge cost annually to substance misuse in New Hampshire, which represents $2.36 billion every year. Of that total, $1.6 billion is represented by loss in productivity, which is directly attributable to employees that have substance misuse concerns or substance use disorders. Throughout the Granite State, the Department of Health and Human Services, Bureau of Drug and Alcohol Services, has helped create a robust, effective, and well-coordinated continuum of care for addressing substance use disorders. That includes health promotion or environmental prevention, direct prevention, early identification and intervention, and treatment and recovery supports. Recovery-friendly workplaces are naturally a part of this continuum in several places, including early identification and intervention, which directly relates to our topic today. While many entities play a part in this process of early identification and intervention, recovery-friendly workplaces are uniquely positioned to help current and future employees more than perhaps anyone else. So where do we start? We likely know from years of experience within the workplace that talking about substance use is often considered a taboo topic in many settings. However, it may also surprise you that nearly 25% of New Hampshire adults reported substance use as the most pressing issue facing the state in 2015. The reality is that while conversations about substance use may be uncomfortable, and they often are, nearly 1 in 4 adults consider addressing substance use an important, if not critical, priority. The fact of the matter is that if we're thinking about it, which nearly 25% of adults are at baseline, we can drive conversations about it. And driving conversations around substance use concerns is where we have to start when we want to begin to identify and support employees that are living with this and their families and in their communities every day. What are we looking for as employers, as leaders, as supervisors, as other team members? And identifying employees with a potential substance use concern is a task that, most importantly, should not be taken lightly by any team member, supervisor, or organizational leader. Signs and symptoms of substance misuse or a substance use concern can often reflect other related issues, such as problems in relationships, overall health, etc. And they may not, in fact, be related to an employee's substance use, though they could be. This following list of items may suggest a possible substance use concern for employees, but should be used cautiously. And those include decreased morale or increased negative affect, meaning their mood or demeanor, unexplained, sustained increases in absenteeism and lost productivity, increases in common workplace mistakes or accidents, frequent interest in hosting workplace events that focus on alcohol, tendency to forget important conversations and specific details, constant discussion about under the influence experiences or activities, or substance use related legal or financial problems. And while not an exhaustive list, and one that should be used cautiously, are often and can be related to a potential substance use concern for your team members. And you don't need to memorize this list. You'll notice in the online learning platform, there's a handy handout that will provide this list for you for use in the future so that you can easily recall what this warning list or signs and potential symptoms might be. But as recovery friendly workplaces, we often have to take a different approach than businesses traditionally have. And even though a list of items to be mindful of may be useful in identifying potential substance use concerns, the reality is that the identification practices to have open and honest conversations with employees in a safe, supportive, and recovery friendly environment. Creating this environment is key to becoming a recovery friendly workplace, after all. When holding space for these conversations about potential substance use concerns, remember the following. Most importantly, to be open and honest, both as a staff member, team member, supervisor, or leader, so you expect the same back from your colleague. Show empathy and compassion with whatever may come up in these conversations. Leave judgment at the door, especially as we begin to identify substance use as a health problem rather than a moral failing. Judgment has no place within these conversations if they're to be effective in helping to identify substance use concerns and addressing them and supporting employees in the future. Which brings us to ensure that you're having a plan and resources. Having conversations without a mechanism to provide support to your employees, which we'll learn in Module 2 of this training, is ineffective. A conversation just for the sake of conversation with no plan and no resources to provide the employee will not have a long-term positive impact on your team members or your organization. And finally, brings us to offer that tangible support from your plan and resources for employees that wish to take advantage of them. While a listening ear is a great way to start, it has to lead to offering those tangible resources and support that an employee can engage with to support themselves. As you're creating opportunities for these types of courageous conversations in the workplace, it does take intentional thought and action. You need to be sure as an organization to implement a policy that provides job security and mechanisms to engage recovery support services for employees that are open and honest about their substance misuse. The key is to not punish employees for disclosing they may have a substance use concern. We want to support, not punish. You also want to identify different leaders and team members who are quote unquote recovery allies that are trained to have these types of conversations and know what to do when they occur, getting us back to that plan and resources that you can offer to employees when they have those. But we need to train staff to be able to have these hard conversations and then support employees through them as they begin to occur within your organization. And finally, you also want to adopt an approach of consistent, supportive follow-up rather than punitive employee monitoring. When an employee has a hard conversation, acknowledges they may have a substance use concern, and then identifies and engages with the support that are available from the organization and within the community, we want to follow up to make sure somebody is doing well, not monitor them for keeping them holding true to the plan that may be in place. You can accomplish that with supportive follow-up, but the impact on the employee as a part of a continuum of care is different than feel like they're being watched by Big Brother, as it were. As we recap Module 1 of identifying substance use concerns amongst employees and supporting them, a summary for employee substance misuse. We know that it results in nearly 66% of the economic cost of substance use in New Hampshire annually. It's often hard to discuss in the workplace, and nearly 25% of New Hampshire adults thinks it is the most pressing issue, leading it to having a worthwhile conversation everywhere, including the workplace. As an organization, some strategies: you want to adopt a recovery-friendly approach to talking about substance use concerns. Ensure a formal process is adopted and codified in workplace policy, both to protect your organization, but also the employees. And remember that while signs of substance misuse may be present, the best way to identify a substance use concern is to talk directly to employees to not infer just from potential symptoms from our list. In doing so, you'll be able to create a mechanism at your organization that is recovery friendly, an approach that will help you help employees that may have substance use concerns in now and or in the future. But identifying substance use concerns or potential substance use concerns is just the first step. After doing so, that plan and those resources that you need to support your employees that have had those courageous conversations with you is also, and perhaps more critically important, for your recovery friendly workplace. In the next segment, we'll talk about how to support employees with substance use concerns, as well as creating a culture of recovery support at your workplace, creates the environment to have these conversations and make them actionable to best support your team members in the future. Glad you joined us today for Module 1 of this training. Be sure to connect with us across social platforms or visit the recoveryfriendlyworkplace.com website to learn more and to stay connected. Thank you, and we'll see you for Module 2 coming up next.